Hey, this is Dave from MetalEpidemic.com. Thank you for checking out our YouTube video. Please feel free to hit the subscribe button below if you like this type of content, and we hope you enjoy the review. What's up, guys? Hope everyone is safe and well. Thank you for checking out a review. For this review, Duncan and I have been checking out the new album from San Francisco quintet Deafheaven. The band's new album, 10 Years Gone, will be released on December 4th via Sargent House. So, Duncan, this is a bit of an interesting one, because the band were due to go on a world tour to celebrate the anniversary of their 4-song untitled demo EP, which was self-released by the band back in 2010. And this was basically like the start of Deafheaven, before all the like critically acclaimed releases that followed. The band obviously have had to switch gears when COVID has basically fucking cancelled everything.
Has there been an issue with touring this year, Dave?
Apparently so. What they decided to do was announce a live rendition of the set that they had planned to perform on this tour. The band then officially announced this album, 10 Years Gone, which includes the first song they ever wrote in De Dallas from the original demo, and it goes on to kind of touch points over the history of Deafheaven that has brought us to this point. Mm-hmm. Now, you may or you may not know, I am not a big fan of live albums.
I didn't know that, actually.
Did you not?
No.
There's just something there's just such a huge difference for me between seeing a band live and experiencing the sound, the atmosphere, the stage presence, and then listening to it on an album that's been recorded live. I just feel like you never really get the full experience, and more often than not, the production value on a lot of live albums is generally garbage.
You're doing the David Lynch approach to watching movies on your phone. It's like maybe my favourite clip ever. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there's a great clip of, like, I think it was either when it would be when Inland Empire came out. So circa 2013 or something, or maybe before 2013, and people like the iPhone had come out not that long, so you could watch like movies and stuff like that, and he got asked about something, and David Lynch, a man who's known for being fairly obscure, not really weighing in too much of his opinions and being level-headed, said, you can't expect people to get the same feelings and experience and watching a movie on their fucking phone like this, and he gets really angry, and I'm like that, like, fucking, like, I'm fairly sure The Hangover plays the same way on a phone as it does in the cinema, David Lynch, right? Maybe your films don't, but I'm the opposite. Like, I think really? Like some of my favourite incarnations of certain bands are the live versions that I get to hear. Like the album that really made me hardcore Nine Inch Nails fan was the live album that they put out in support of The Fragile, which is a tour that I never got a chance to see.
Yeah.
And it sounded, once again though, designed to be a live album, and this is a big fucking band. But I think of bands like Stuck Mojo's live album is fucking incredible. It sounds better than any of the recorded. There's energy and heft, and the songs are a bit faster and all the rest. Without having to hand in my man card here, the Blink-182 live album is fucking great. I know I've just went from Stuck Mojo, like Marilyn Manson's. Was it the Rock is Dead tour or God is in the TV tour, whatever, fucking incredible as well, and I can hear the atmosphere and the sound through it as well. I will agree with you, there's a lot of bands that are like, let's put out, like Pearl Jam are the great example of this. Did they not have like a bootleg live album for every city they played in America and like that? That's a fucking horrible gimmick designed to fleece hardcore Pearl Jam fans. Not only buy the city we played in, yeah, and I've got all their albums and all that, yeah, I'm just going to buy them all because you're. So I think there's a. I don't know. Let me put it this way. You saw that Dim live performance, a live stream. If they announced tomorrow that they were putting that up as an album that you could download and listen to, would you download and listen to it?
See, I think there's a big difference between seeing the visuals and not seeing the visuals for me.
Is that how you feel that like you connect on that level then to a live performance? Whereas like to me it's to me there's almost a curiosity about how well is that. How well is what I've heard on a CD going to translate well to a live setting? And then when you get I get excited when compositions change. You know, where a band will say like that, we're never going to fucking sound like that. You know, there's 45 people recorded on this song. A choir and orchestra, so we'll just change the composition. And sometimes on a CD, I can pick that better. Plus, I will argue, not that I want to say that COVID's been a great thing, because it's like it has removed in cinemas and in live venues shitheads that stand in front of you and actually taint your live experience. There are gigs I've come out of that I've not enjoyed, not because the band weren't great, but because the arsehole in fucking front of me, one, didn't shower before he came out, and two, proceeded to sing out of key all the way through the entire performance. So I'm not saying they're always better, Dave, I'm just saying they have their time and their place.
I know what you're saying. I feel that, I'm a visual person, and I feel that there are a lot of live albums that sound-wise just don't do it for me. I'm a stickler for a really good production, and to me I'd much rather listen to a well-produced studio album of songs by a band than a live album of songs that has a terrible mix and sounds completely flat. Yeah.
There's also, I suppose there's also the argument as well that they've already recorded these songs. You know what I mean? There's an argument, like in the case of this one here, they're essentially, these are out there and they're recorded and you can't tour it.
Yeah. Which
is what your plans that just delay the tour a year. Why the need to, right, I understand there's an anniversary like linked to it and all the rest, but at the same time though, 11 years, like you call it the COVID fucking tour or something like that. There are plenty of ways to market this out with it. So I can see, but I'm not saying I totally agree with you. I can kind of see where you're coming from a little bit.
You know, whilst I would say I'm not a big fan of live albums, this is slightly different in that it's been recorded in a studio, so it's not recorded, you know, in a venue. You're getting a very kind of natural, organic feel of a band playing live, but the production can be monitored a lot more, giving us something closer to a studio album.
Yeah.
I'd also like to state for the record,
it's a lot of disclaimers coming out in the front. I love this.
I fucking love Deafheaven.
Yeah, Deafheaven are like Deafheaven are a band that I don't feel ever get like their fair day in court.
Yeah.
Ever. Because I think they're not black metal enough to be, you know, in the hardcore fandoms of black metal, because their music is tinged. Yeah. And certainly in the case of this release here, obviously there was a lot more black metal going on in their earlier part of their career than they went. But I think they're a band who like weave atmosphere almost better than the majority of bands that claim to do it walking the planet. Like to me, Deafheaven are like if Deftones decided that they wanted to do black metal now, that's kind of how they would do black metal. Like there's I've yet to hear a Deafheaven release that I haven't found at the end of it that I felt better about myself as a person, like more enriched, more enlightened. It's that way where you'd like have you read the Da Vinci Code? Oh yes, I have. You know what I mean? Like that way where you like I'm smugly on the pulse of culture. Like to me, they're just a band that once again I don't know any band that sounds like Deafheaven. But I can pick out elements where that kind of sounds a bit like this, but they weave it very comfortably in, and there's no ego about them at all.
No, you'll notice there's a lot of bands now try to sound like Deafheaven.
But it's the Deftones thing like again, though. Yeah, I mean it's the Deftones. It's when you patent a sound which is not unique, but it sounds different from everything that's out there, and you make it sound like, well, everyone should have been doing this this is how this genre is always supposed to have sounded, right? That's when other bands go, yeah, I want to sound like that. And you're right, that it's weird how after Deafheaven started to become a bit more popular, there was a lot of bands out there that were just weaving those black metal elements in as if, oh yeah, we were always really into that. Were you? Like, I've got 5 albums in my collection that says you weren't. But yeah, they've always just done it. I've always found them a really, really interesting band who, even the visuals of their album artwork is in contrast to how the sound is. So I was excited about this one. I was actually really interested to hear what Kyle made of it, because Kyle has never heard Deafheaven, and that to me is criminal. I think you kind of feel like at this stage someone like him should have, because I think there's a lot of talking points. But then Kyle sometimes goes a bit raw on recordings, and I think me and you're going to be fairly glowing about this one. So I'm quite glad that the optimism's not going to be brought down. So 10 years gone, a live album based on their... Did you say self-released?
Self-released, yeah.
Fuck's sake.
Their demo was self-released. This isn't self-released.
Yeah.
That original untitled demo was self-released. I'd actually never heard it.
No, I hadn't either.
When I was getting around to listening to this album, I was like, yes, some fucking Deafheaven. I love this band. Like fucking Sunbather and Ordinary Corrupt Human Love, fucking stunning albums. But I was like, we actually haven't heard their demo EP, so I was kind of intrigued to hear a bit of that as well, because I know that there's a track on this album from the demo. I've never seen them live either, so this is probably the closest I'm going to get for quite some time. But there's no big surprise on this one. I did fucking love this album. The thing is with this one, the songs, they aren't new, so there's no real critique needed, to be honest, on that front. You'll have heard these songs before on various Deafheaven albums, and to be honest, they're performed immaculately on this. But what I did like, aside from the tracks, was the selection of songs that they picked. I think they picked a really good mix of stuff for this album. There's 3 tracks from Sunbather. There is one from New Bermuda. There's also one from Ordinary Corrupt Human Love. There's one from Roads to Judah, which was their very first album. You've got one from the demo EP, and there's also a single they released in 2015 called From the Kettle Onto the Coil, which was it was part of that cable network, the Adult Swim's weekly single series thing they did. But so it was really cool to hear all these tracks kind of mixed together, and it kind of really highlighted to me the quality of music Deafheaven have put out over the years. Yeah, like unbelievable. Like although these tracks have like these small, like the intricate differences between each albums, they work extremely well on a live set like this. A lot of this band's material has like that kind of ebb and flow to it anyway, where they switch and they merge these like intense kind of black metal moments with these huge kind of shoegazy kind of post-rock sections, but the balance of this as a live album works really well. I think the songs flow really well into each other, but they all have their differences, so it doesn't become too samey or repetitive. I really liked the Dallas, the track from the demo EP. As I said, I've never heard it before, but actually that track has a bit of a playful side to it. They do they go into the kind of the more kind of blackened moments, which are very intense, but it has these almost don't shoot me down for this, but almost like emo meets pop punk chords.
How fucking dare you?
kind of like laced through it. It gives it a more upbeat feel, if you know what I mean. And it was really cool to hear Language Games from Roads to Judah. I haven't listened to their first album in such a long time, and I forgot how good that was. The lead work and melodies on that track are stunning. I'd also say that although this is like a live studio recording, because of the the kind of nature of this band's sound, it doesn't necessarily come across like a live album.
Yes,
that makes sense.
It's one of my comments. So
okay. It sounds very much like a band playing, rather than individual instruments being recorded or layered, but in terms of the sound and production, it sounds like a Deafheaven album.
Yeah.
It may not be as polished sounding as like Ordinary Corrupt Human Love, but it's not a kick in the arse away from it either. It sounds really good. Everything has a lot of clarity. It still has that kind of nice reverby tone that Deafheaven are known for. So like production wise, I didn't have any issues with the sound of this at all. I thought that the end of the album was particularly great. Dreamhouse, which is from Sunbather, is one of my favourite Deafheaven tracks, and it's a track that has a very kind of natural finish to it, which works really well at the end of this release. But weirdly, it's the first track on Sunbather. It doesn't make any sense, but it works well as an opener and a closer, which is bizarre. But I loved the ending to it. Thought it was perfect. As you've guessed, I really enjoyed this one.
Yeah, there's certain bands that do that though, like where you hear like there's like I hate to like mention the same bands in every single review, but like when Nine Inch Nails recorded Hurt at the end of the Downward Spiral, that was always going to be the last song they played in their set.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It is cathartic, brings everything through. It weirdly speaks to the experience of going through an Nine Inch Nails concert, specifically at that time. So it works. But then they're like this year, for example, on the new Marilyn Manson album, he has that song, We Are Chaos, right? Mm-hmm. And then I listen to that and if he doesn't close every single set with that song from now until the end of time, then he's doing something wrong. And that's track 3. So, I mean, like, it's weird how, like, some songs taken out with that context and put in a different environment can feel organically suited to be placed differently in a set than you would on an album. It's generally because of like the purpose and intent behind it. From the way Sunbather, which and I'll go like Sunbather. I think the year it came out was in like my top 3 albums that year. It's fucking incredible, and they've never really put a foot wrong. That was the one that introduced me to them. They've never really put a foot wrong to me since then, and this is is still just gold for me. I think. Like, picking up on what you were saying about production, there is a cynical part of me that feels like calling this a live album feels a wee bit like a cheat, but I know what they mean when they're saying it. They mean that they were live in studio recording it, as opposed to, well, the drums were recorded on Tuesday and then, we went away to surf some waves and then came back on the Thursday to record. It's not what I mean. They were all in there and they all recorded it. Now, I don't know if this was all recorded in one sitting. If that was the case, then that's remarkable. Or whether these songs are just recorded live 2 at a time, 3 at a time. I don't know the ins and outs or specifics about that. To be honest, I don't need to know. Because it all sounded very thorough. Organic's the word I would use. You're right. Like, Deafheaven have such a kind of... They have a tone about them that kind of almost leads them when you're like a song in this, when you're like, is this actually this... Is this actually just the album song, or is it, because it does. There is that, which makes me excited to see them live, because that's always been a concern to me, is how you get that feel, that reverb, that kind of tone in a live setting, and how it works. And now I feel like weirdly confident that I don't need to worry about that if I ever do see them live going forward. It's a great mixture of songs. There's great pace. There's a warmth, a richness about it. I really don't have much to add on top of what you said. It's once again a testament to why Deafheaven are one of the more remarkable bands doing what they're doing out there, and a band that should criminally be bigger than they are, and accepted more across genre. I think. I think they're a difficult band to pigeonhole in a genre, but I think that should lend to their mass appeal. And that they don't try and sound like anyone else, they just try and sound like themselves. And, once again, linking back to that idea of the Deftones fans are a bit culty that way. I found out this week, much to my shock and much to my dismay, and much to my wife's happiness, that Michael Bublé is a massive fan of the Deftones. I don't know if you read this article. And has been for years. And then I listened to him sing these croony, jazzy he's a good singer, but he's a bit too attractive for that voice, if you know what I mean. Guys like that should like look like they've been divorced a few times, and he doesn't. He looks like he's never seen a vagina, Dave, and that worries me. You know, there's no kind of stress on his face. Like, I must have more clunge. You know what I mean? There's that kind of I don't know what's out there in the world sort of look, but you know what I mean. Where bands can just, like, regardless what your musical disposition is, we can all agree on one thing, and that's Deftones are great. And I would say the same about Deafheaven. Regardless what your musical persuasion is, your proclivity to one genre, your allegiance to another, we should be all able to agree as fans of good music that Deafheaven kick ass, and this release is just, it's like the exclamation mark on it. Like, not only are they great on CD, but when it comes to them being all in a room together, and spend a bit of time setting the stuff up, but performing these songs live, guess what? They're really fucking good at that as well. So
yeah. No surprise. So rating wise, what are you thinking for 10 years gone from Deafheaven? What would you put this one at?
It's a 4.5. To be honest, a part of me toyed with the idea of giving them a 5, but then the other part of me felt, and I don't want to, but it's like a big deal, he's knocking 0.5 off it, because there is a technicality in here by calling it a live album that I would much rather, you know, live in studio or something else. You know, like you had to have those, what is it, like tiny desk sessions where like a band goes in and records in a cafe, and that's just the thing. Like all these bands, they're brilliant, because like I've seen so many fucking amazing groups do these tiny desk sessions where they basically go in and just record in just like fucking sit in front of people drinking deconstructed lattes. That there is a technicality there about it. It's not really a live album, but as an album itself, I mean, I think, is it as good as the albums that I give 5 to? Deafheaven have at least one, maybe 2 5-star albums from me. It's not as good as that, but it's because I've heard these songs before. So you know what I mean. The only thing I could really do is do a run on Daedalus, which I think is a great song anyway. And once again, hearing that and I'm like, that you were writing stuff back then that good, it's no wonder you're writing stuff like this now. So 4.5 feels right.
Yeah, I'd totally agree with you. I've got 4.5 on this one as well. Ordinary Corrupt Human Love was my album of 2018, I think it was. It came out. It was my favourite album of that year, and that was a 5 for me. So this one, I totally agree with what you're saying. Yeah, it's a live album, but it's no a live album. It's, you know, it's a bit of a grey area, but I'd say it's, if you're a fan of the band, it's a must listen. You know, I really enjoyed it. I probably enjoyed it more being a studio album, if I'm honest. Because I'm not the biggest fan of live albums anyway, so this probably worked for me more than it would have if it was like live in some venue somewhere. So yeah, for me it's a 4.5. Really, really good album. It drops on December 4th on Sargent House. It's called 10 Years Gone, and you can check the band out online at facebook.com/Deafheaven. I'll put a little link in the description below. Thanks for checking out the review, much appreciated. Let us know what you think. If you've heard any of the tracks, or once you've heard the album, stick some comments in below. Happy to hear your thoughts and opinions on it. Thanks for checking out the review. We'll be back with another review very soon, but until then, take care. We'll speak to you soon.
Bye everyone.